Hello, learners. Welcome again for the class of Optional English for BA course. In this class, we are going to study pre-Shakespearean drama and dramatists. And as you know, it's presented by me, Shivanand Hiremat, your friend. Let's recap whatever we have learned until now. We have studied the salient features of Elizabethan drama. As you studied, I think you all know there are revenge themes, ghastly melodramatic scenes, hero villain protagonists, based dramas, tragic comedies, and usage of blank verse, so on and so forth. There were miracles, moralities, mysteries, and interludes, which are a non-traditional dramatical type before Elizabethan period. Now, in this session, in this class, let's study in brief the dramatists and their contributions for the development of Elizabethan drama and Shakespeare. Let's start. The pre-Shakespearean dramatists are known as the university wits. They are so called as nearly all of them were closely associated with Oxford and Cambridge universities. As we have learnt in the introduction itself that university wits are the graduates from the Oxford and Cambridge universities of England. There is a beautiful statement by Ben Jonson about the way how university wits wrote dramas. The classicists had form but not fire. Classicist means the writers or the dramatists from Greek as well as Latin. The popular dramatists means of that period had interest but little sense of form. It is a beautiful statement about the total verdict of the dramatic type of that time. It's by Ben Jonson. They were usually actors and dramatists. They means the university wits were usually actors and dramatists, and their training began as actors as well as dramatists. They often worked together. Let's move. University wits. Number one, John Lilly. As you have learned, there are totally 7 university wits, and let's study the first one, that is John Lilly. Lilly wrote comedies which were intended for the child actors in royal service. Royal service means for the king's service. His charming romantic plays are all comedies. You should remember, John Lilly has not written any tragedies. He has written all comedies. They are Women in the Moon, Endymion, etc. Endymion is a poem by Keats also is there. And Lilly elaborated the romantic sentiment in his plays. If we study, we will be able to know that he brought on the English stage the element of high comedy, full of lively wit and fantastic charm. That is the quality of John Lilly. He mingled the tragedy and comedy, pathos and humor in his plays. A bit of tragic element, but it's not at all a tragedy, right? Lilly's subjects are taken mostly from mythology and legends, foreign as well as natives. Local means English as well as foreign means the classical by Greeks as well as Latins. Based mythology and legendary plot or stories Lilly used in his comedies. He added to English drama the feminine qualities of delicacy, grace, charm, and subtlety. This is also very fine, important quality of John Lilly's comedies. The number two or the second number in the university, which is Robert Greene. It's not at all listed as per their lived time, but casually, Robert Greene contributed greatly to the development of romantic comedy. He is also a standard comedy writer. In his plays, the realism and idealism meet freely. Very important as well as fine qualities. Idealism and realism blends together in his plays. In characterization, he makes a notable moment. The very important drastic change he brought in the usage of characterization. In place of the stock characters of the mystery and miracle plays, I think all of you know in miracles and mystery plays there were legendary characters like saints and kings, so and so. But he used different individuals characters in his place. He introduces these individual characters in his place. His plays are five in number. Alphonsus, King of Aragon, is an imitation for Marlowe's Tamburlaine. Marlowe is also one of the university wit. His Tamburlaine has got the imitation of Alphonsus, King of Aragon by Robert Greene. Yes, let's continue about the Greene. A Looking Glass for London and England is written in collaboration with Lodge. Thomas Lodge and Greene contributed for a play called A Looking Glass for London and England. You should remember these things as you have to keep in the mind the competitive examination. They may ask you the question, who are the contributors for a play A Looking Glass for London and England? You should remember Greene and Thomas Lodge. And the next point is Orlando Furioso is basically written after reading Sir John Harrington's translation of Aristo. This is also important point. In Friar Bacon and Friar Bangway, we have three distinct worlds mingled together. The world of magic, the world of aristocratic life, and the world of the country. All the three different worlds have been blended, have been mingled in a play called Friar Bacon and Friar Bangway by Greene. Yes, the next is Fondasto. It's a source for the Winter's Tale. Winter's Tale is a play by William Shakespeare, and this Pandasto has become the source for his comedy. That's a Winter's Tale is a comedy. The next thing you should remember about is a confessional tone, especially in his later plays, a totally personal element, a strange personal element we can find in Greene's. Right, let's see. The third one is George Peele. Yes, his plays include The Arraignment of Paris. It's a kind of romantic comedy. It's a kind of pastoral comedy. Pastoral comedy, as we have discussed in the last classes, pastoral comedy deals with the country life. You should remember, it's a very simple country life. It is there in The Arraignment of Paris. The famous Chronicle of King Edward I is a rambling chronicle play. Chronicle play, I think before him nobody has written, but this person started writing chronicle play using the famous Chronicle of King Edward I. The Old Wives' Tale is a clever satire on the popular drama of that day. It's a satire, it uses wits there, the Old Wives' Tale. The Love of King David and Fair Bethsabe is an interesting play. You should remember sonnet. A very interesting aspect about George Peele is he has written a sonnet named A Farewell to Arms. It's a novel written by Ernest Hemingway of the same name. But A Farewell to Arms has been written addressing to Queen Elizabeth. This is a very important aspect of George Peele. He addressed that sonnet to Queen Elizabeth. He is famous at that time. Peele's style can be violent to the point of absurdity, but he has his moments of real poetry. That is the again beautiful quality of George Peele. He can handle his blank verse with ease and variety that was common at the time. All the university wits used blank verse to some extent, but Shakespeare is the master of using blank verse as well as Marlowe. All these university wits also. Let's go for the fourth one, that is Thomas Lodge. Thomas Lodge, as we know, his dramatic work is small in quantity, means he has written a less quantity of dramatic work. He probably collaborated with Shakespeare in Henry VI and Greene's A Looking Glass for London and England. As we have discussed about Greene's, there it is, A Looking Glass for London and England, and it's a collaboration with the Shakespeare in Henry VI. It's a historical play. Next is his only surviving play is The Wounds of Civil War. It is a play of old loose historical type dealing with Marius and Sulla. These two characters we can find in the play called The Wounds of Civil War by Thomas Lodge. Rosalind, you should remember this thing very importantly. Rosalind Euphus' Golden Legacy. It's a source for As You Like It. As You Like It is a wonderful comedy by William Shakespeare. That this Rosalind Euphus' Golden Legacy is a source for that play. In many competitive examinations, this question was asked. What was the source for As You Like It? It's a Rosalind. We can find a heroine in that play called Rosalind. He has also responded to Stephen Gosson's School of Abuse. Stephen Gosson has written a School of Abuse, and this person responds him with his defense of poetry, music, and stage plays. This is also important aspect of Thomas Lodge, and in many competitive examinations, this question is also asked. And believed to have collaborated with Shakespeare in Henry VI Part 2, and it is also again collaboration. As we are studying Thomas Lodge, he has less own quality and quantity of writing work. He has almost collaboration with all the people with him. Then Thomas Nash took part active in political affairs. He was a born journalist. He has no creditable achievement as a dramatist, but being the university wit, we have to study him. He's supposed to have finished Marlowe's Dido, a play by Marlowe called Dido. It has been finished by Thomas Nash, it was supposed. And his only surviving play is Summer's Last Will and Testament. It's a kind of satirical masque about the seasons. We should remember about Thomas Nash is a very important aspect. And The Unfortunate Traveller, or The Life of Jack Wilton, is perhaps first picaresque novel in English, is a prose work by Thomas Nash. The name of that prose work is The Unfortunate Traveller or The Life of Jack Wilton. We have to remember this one. And number 6 comes in this line is Thomas Kyd. As we already known about him in the introduction, that he is very famous for his Spanish tragedy. Thomas Kyd is one of the most important of university wits. He was, however, influenced by Senecan. Senecan tragedy has been introduced into English drama by this person for the first time. That is, his surviving, the most important is the Spanish tragedy. As we have known that the name of the another name for this play is Hieronymo is Mad Again. Tragedy of blood. It's a tragedy of blood. In many competitive examinations, this question is asked. What's the another name for the Spanish tragedy? Or Hieronymo is Mad Again. Yes, and it was written at the time of 1580s. At that time, Spain was regarded as England's most hated enemy. Spain country now, it was regarded as enemy of England. That is, the Spanish tragedy was written at those times. And the central motive of this play is a revenge of Hieronymo. He is a hero, he is a protagonist, his revenge. And he was marshal of the Spain for the murder of his Horatian son, Horatian. Horatian is the son of Hieronymo. He makes himself ready for the revenge. And let's continue about Thomas Kyd. As a revenge tragedy, its horrific plot involving murder, frenzy and sudden death gave the play a great and lasting popularity. It is even popular nowadays also as a great tragedy, as a first Senecan tragedy in English or Elizabethan drama. We should keep it in mind. Shakespeare is much indebted for the matching of the plot of his famous Hamlet to this tragedy of Kyd. Yes, Hamlet is a play written by William Shakespeare. That Shakespeare has to be indebted for this person because of that Spanish tragedy. His dramatic style, means Kyd's dramatic style, though ranting, has occasional flashes of rare beauty which foreshadow the great tragical lines of Shakespeare. Many a times, if we read Spanish tragedy, Shakespeare tragedies look a bit dull, but sometime only. Hamlet is also a piece of work by Thomas Kyd, and Kyd's only other surviving play known as Cornelia. Yes, Cornelia, you should look there. And at last, the number 7 is Christopher Marlowe, the very important person, the very important dramatist in the line of university wit. Marlowe is one of the remarkable characters of the English Renaissance and the greatest of Shakespeare predecessors. All the other university wits are all called as predecessors of Shakespeare, but this person is the greatest of all. He is famous for his 4 dramas, now known as the Marlowesque or one-man type tragedy. We should remember this phrase, Marlowesque. It's a one-man type of tragedy, each revolving about one central personality. Yes, in all his four dramas, we find one great personality in each drama who is consumed by the lust of power. The great usage of plot using the concept of lust of power, that is, we find in Christopher Marlowe's plays. The first of these is Tamburlaine the Great. It's the story of Timur the Tartar. Timur, you should remember, Tamburlaine is an epic rather than a drama. It's a great length of play, but one can understand its instant success with the people only half civilized, fond of military glory. The people who were very fond of military glory will had enjoyed this drama, and the instant adaptation of its mighty line as the instrument of all dramatic expression. We should remember Dr. Faustus, very nice, very important, very much wonderful. Again, I may say fantabulous drama or a play by Christopher Marlowe. It's one of the best of Marlowe's work. And let's continue. Let's see about the Dr. Faustus. The story of Dr. Faustus. If you just listen to the introduction, the person inside you, if he is very much interested in literature, he craves to read Dr. Faustus. It's really wonderful tragedy. Yes, is that of a scholar. Dr. Faustus is a scholar who longs for infinite knowledge and who turns from theology, philosophy, medicine, and law. These were his study things, but he turns from all these things to magical world. He loves magical world. The play is the story of 24 years. Very important thing about this play is it's a story of 24 years. Like Tamburlaine, it is lacking in dramatic construction, but has an unusual number of passages of rare poetic beauty. Yes, Marlowe's third play is The Jew of Malta. Again, it's a study of the lust for wealth, which centers about Barabbas, a hero. Yes, a terrible old money lender, so strongly suggestive of Shylock in The Merchant of Venice. All of you heard the name The Merchant of Venice. It's a play, it's a comedy by it's also called a tragicomedy. Wonderful play by William Shakespeare. The same plot, the same story runs in The Jew of Malta. Right. Yes, let's continue about Marlowe. Marlowe's last play is Edward II. It is a tragic study of a king's weakness and misery. Yes, Edward II. In point of style and dramatic construction, it is by far the best of Marlowe's plays. The plot and style is very nice one, dramatic construction is a nice one, and is a worthy predecessor of Shakespeare's historical dramas. Yes, predecessor of Shakespeare historical dramas. Marlowe is the only dramatist of the time who is ever compared with Shakespeare. Nowadays also, the only person, if he is deserved to be compared with Shakespeare, is Christopher Marlowe. Yes. Now, he died at 29. Very sad. Even if he lived for long years, he would have written more and more number of plays. He might have overtaken Shakespeare, but he died at 29 only. Let's conclude about all these university wits. As we have learnt, the university wits brought English drama to the point where Shakespeare began to experiment upon it. The stage was set for Shakespeare by all these university wits. And much of Shakespeare works woved in many respects to previous plays, as we have learnt all through the 10 to 20 minutes here. Euphus and Rosalind, that is by someone that is also the plot used for As You Like It, so and so forth. And yes, each of the university wits added or emphasized same essential element which appeared later in the works of Shakespeare. This is what we may say, Shakespeare has got the mirror and he looked into that. He experimented with the beautiful aspects of life in his dramas using the works of all these university wits. Actually, they created the platform from where Shakespeare started his journey, and Marlowe simply prepared the way for the master with whom we should follow Shakespeare. Yes, let us conclude. The writers like Greene and Lilly contributed much to the era. As we know, they were comedy writers, Peele's sonnet is a special one to be remembered. The name of that sonnet you should remember. Yes, yes, yes. Lily's Euphus is also the masterpiece of the era. These are the very simple things, and here we you have the reference books. You can refer all these books for more information. Thank you for listening. Thank you very much.